I sat down with President Trump on Friday and offered him quite a bit. He made an offer for a wall. I said, if we do full Dreamers, we'll give you the deal. And he basically agreed. So we were close. Then he pulled out and backed off. So now I've taken the wall off the table because they backed out of that deal. And then he shut the government down.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said said he's taking funding for the wall off the table in the upcoming DACA negotiations. Schumer said he had offered to give Trump $25 billion for the wall and border security in exchange for a deal on DACA. But Deputy White House Press Secretary Hogan Gidley refuted his claim, saying the offer, quote, never existed. President Trump hit back at Schumer's claims in a tweet last night saying, quote, crying, Chuck Schumer fully understands, especially after his humiliating defeat, that if there is no wall, there is no DACA. Are we really here, Joe? We must have safety and security together with a strong military for our great people. Joining us now, Republican communications strategist, MSNBC political contributor Rick Tyler, and professor at the Lyndon B. Johnson School of Public Affairs at the University of Texas, MSNBC contributor Victoria DeFrancesco Soto. Steve Ratner and Mike Barnacle are back at the table as well. Joe, is this a real negotiation? Something seems way off by these negotiations. I feel like everyone's bidding on a house on a TV show or something. It seems silly.
Yeah. I mean, a couple things I don't understand. First of all, Donald Trump can't read or can't at least add numbers. If you look at the poll, the NBC Survey Monkey poll, 56% of Americans blame Donald Trump or the Republican Congress for this government shutdown. Only 39% blame the Democrats. You add those bottom two numbers up, Republicans get 56% of the blame, congressional Democrats 39%. That's the first thing. I don't understand why the president would actually say what he said, because that requires everybody to put up those numbers. The second thing I don't really understand is why Chuck Schumer would even go out there and say, I'm taking the wall off the table. I understand that might have been good for his base, but he needed to say to his base, hey, just stay calm. We need to get the deal done. Just trust me. I'm working this thing right now. Of course, when he says that, he's going to get that. He's going to get the exact response that he got it from the president. He got from the president of the United States and his spokesperson. So I think it was counterproductive for him to do that. But Victoria, for liberal activists that are pressuring Chuck Schumer on this wall issue, why not just give them the wall, which we know isn't really going to be a wall. It's going to be basically something made out of, MacGyver-like paper clips and, as I said, 30-weight ball bearings and gauze pads. It's not going to be the Berlin Wall. It's just going to be something that allows Donald Trump to say, I built the wall. And in exchange for that, you win on DACA. Shouldn't that be easy for Democrats to do?
It should, in theory. I mean, I view the wall as an expensive, useless toy, but it's part of Donald Trump's tantrum, and he desperately wants it. He agreed to build a wall. He said to his base, I will give you that big, beautiful wall, and he knows he has to give it to his base. So I think that that is a small price to pay in humanitarian costs and even economic ones to just give him the wall and we get the dreamers. Because if we push close to 1 million dreamers into the shadows, that's going to be a multi-billion economic hit to us here in the United States. So it's a small price to pay. I don't like the idea of it, but sometimes you've just got to do the horse trading.
Right.
So, Rick Tyler, is this an easy horse trade to make? I mean, you've got DACA, which is a 90-10 issue, obviously unpopular in some congressional districts, conservative congressional districts. I understand that. My old district, it would be unpopular, I'm sure. But it's a 90-10 issue around the rest of the country. Why not, if you're a Democrat, say, OK, we'll give him his wall, whatever that is, and in exchange, we actually do a deal on DACA, and maybe we even expand it out to get the Dreamers in as well. That seems to be a win-win for everybody.
You would think so, Joe. I mean, it's so simple, and that is, in fact, what Chuck Schumer offered. Chuck Schumer put all his cards on the table. That's why you saw him withdraw it yesterday, because he gave Donald Trump essentially everything he wanted, and still nobody knows where Donald Trump really is. I think Donald Trump and Chuck Schumer actually wanted to get a deal. Then they went back to their respective camps, and they got pressure. But you think this would be the easiest thing to do in the world to do? Everybody wants to solve DACA, but the Republicans want simply something in return for it, and that is border security, so that we don't have future DACA. I think that sounds wholly reasonable. I don't really think you need a wall per se. We certainly need border security, but the way to keep people from coming over from Mexico to the United States is really not the wall. It's to cut off the incentive to get them paid. And so there's lots of things you can do to make sure that only people who are here legally are getting paid. One is to require employers to only do electronic transfer to their bank accounts when they pay them. And so it's very simple. People go to the ATM, and if you're legal, the money comes out, and if you're illegal, then the money doesn't come out. You'd be surprised how quickly people will come into compliance.
Hey, Victoria, it's Willie. Do you see on March 5th, which is the date when the White House says it could begin to deport Dreamers, do you see that actually happening, given where this issue sits in this country? As Joe said, it's a 90-10 issue, or at the very low end, a 2-to-1 issue in some polls. Is there a world, a negotiation, is there a deal or a lack of a deal that allows that to happen, and we have images on our TV that morning or the morning after of children, of young people, of teenagers, of 20-somethings being forced back out of the country?
That's my nightmare, Willie. That is the nightmare that I would wake up to on a March 5th if no deal is found. I am cautiously optimistic that if the wall, the $20 billion or the $30 billion that Donald Trump wants for the wall is given to him, that a solution will be found for DACA. If it is not, then I do think that Dreamers are going to be fair game, because when Donald Trump came in and he changed through his executive orders a lot of the immigration laws, what we saw is that he changed the priority system to where essentially non-Dreamers, persons who aren't necessarily criminals, violent criminals, are in the same category as being eligible for deportation. So if you were a Dreamer, after March 5th, you are as fair game as someone who was previously not a Dreamer. And if, in a month, 2 months from now, we don't get that deal, this could be happening.
So, Rick, on border security, sure, I think we all want border security, but it is just worth noting that illegal immigration from Mexico has been dropping really since the financial crisis, and especially it's actually been dropping since Trump was elected, because, believe it or not, a lot of Mexicans don't want to come live in Trump's America. But that said, it seems to me the wall, or the border security, whatever you want to call it, is the easy part of the deal. The harder part of the deal, and it is a straightforward trade, or it should be, but the harder part is DACA and immigration, because a simple deal would simply be DACA. But then you have Republicans who want chain migration dealt with, they want the diversity lottery dealt with, they want a more comprehensive immigration package, and that gets really complicated. And then you have the problem of the House of Representatives, which, as you remember, in 2013, I believe, would not pass the Senate immigration compromise because they were more hard line. So how do you see all those politics on immigration, particularly, playing out across the Republican Party?
Well, in fact, Stevie, you referred to the Gang of Eight, and that passed overwhelmingly in the Senate and didn't pass. It wasn't even brought up in the House, which makes, it actually makes Schumer's deal with Trump sort of meaningless. He's saying, or I'm sorry, with Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell saying, sure, I'll give you a vote in the Senate, but there's no guarantee it will come in the House. And, Steve, I do agree with you. Absolutely, there's been a net negative migration to the United States from Mexico, but that illustrates my point. People come here because of the money and the opportunity, and when the money and opportunity are lacking, then people won't come. And so I think to get rid of the economic incentives would be a much more effective way to keep people from coming here illegally than a wall, although I do agree that we need border security. Look, the Democrats, it'd be simple to say, and I think DACA should pass because these people who are here, who came, their parents brought them here illegally, did not do anything illegal on their own, and so the government has looked the other way in all these years, so we need to do something to fix that. But we don't want to create a situation where we continue to have people come in and then we have to solve these problems over and over again. That, in fact, happened in 1986 when we were promised that we'd have border security and then we wouldn't be dealing with this immigration issue in the future, and that actually never happened. These are all reasonable things to get done, and reasonable people can get them done, but what you're seeing is power politics interfering with good policy.
Rick Tyler and Victoria DeFrancesco Soto, thank you both for being on this morning.
Thank you.
Ahead in our next hour, we'll